I think it's recording, I don't know. Okay, all right, let's just get going. So welcome, thank you very much. And just a little bit introduction of myself. This is the Community Mobilization Resource Coalition. And I, for reasons that I'm sort of the webmaster and also the coordinator of the group for now. Recently, we have some, administration changes. So we kind of wanted to continue the momentum while we get our future meetings that coming up in January and so forth more organized. So in the meantime, I'd just like to kind of welcome you all to join us. And a little explanation for those that just joined us recently is that what is the purpose of community mobilization? For those who may not have heard of us before, the purpose really is to change the power dynamics. What does that mean? That really means is that we're a number of underrepresented voices that we can combine our voices, we amplify our collective strength. So that really is the purpose of this group here, is to combine and find a common ground within our diverse voices, so that we become our voice become more powerful, and also to promote the whole notion about co-designing. Co-designing means is that a lot of initiatives that happen in our community, that there's a changing dynamic such that the initiatives that go on will have involving more diverse participation in the designing phase of the initiatives. And hopefully, as we go forward, systems begin to change so that everyone can contribute and benefit equitably. And we have a steering committee. Some of the members are here, and you can tell from the picture that we're a really diverse group of people. And we're also continue to expand our reach here. And this is essentially what I wanted to leave you the message, to just introduce ourselves, okay? So without further ado, I just wanted to get kind of the agenda today, after I did the welcoming, is to really to welcome and thank all the participants that are going to be coming present to us. That's our format has been for our meeting every month. We invite some of the people that are allies, and we contribute our effort to give us a presentation about what they're up to. In general, we have the public schools come and present, Olmsted County, and various groups here. So without further ado, I'll just have Jennifer take us through a little bit, 5-10 minutes, a little briefing on what you're doing within the Rochester Public Schools. Okay, and I have your slide here.
Al, thank you so much. It's good to see all of you. So as Al said, I'm Jennifer Spindler-Craig, Coordinator of Family Engagement in Rochester Public Schools. And I just have a few updates today for you from RPS. One of those updates is kind of the big project that we're all working on, Rochester Public Schools District-Wide Initiatives for Strategic Change, which is a really long title that we use the acronym DISC for. We have several DISC committees, working groups, and there was a November letter that came out from Dr. Piquel, the superintendent, about 20 different areas that we're working on. There are actually 10 that the school board has tasked the district with working on in this current year, and 10 more for the subsequent year. So there are these 20 strategic tasks that we're working on, and one of those is family engagement. There are several others that the district is working on. So in the slides that Al will share later, there will be links to some of those different areas of focus. So that's one big thing going on.
This would be a link to that. I assume that, Jennifer, that this is a link to that strategy from Dr. Patel.
It is. Yes, so Dr. Patel sent out a letter to the community indicating those areas of work and growth. So that letter highlights it, and there's a lot going on, all the way from transportation to school start times, family engagement, multiple different areas, belonging. So a whole variety of things that the district is working on. So that is one of the big underlying things that it's happening. And moving on to the next slide, we had our family engagement meeting just this week, and we had the honor of having Al come to present about his community beam portal, which was really wonderful. We've had lots of positive feedback about the portal and about that presentation that you did. So that was new for many people, many of the participants in our meeting. So it was great to get that information and all of those links. So Rochester Public Schools, just for general information, there are a few different places to access some of the updates: social media link, district-wide news, and district-wide events. And the RPS website does have a translate the website feature on the top left of the website. So if there are people who would like to access the website in multiple languages, it does have the translate feature located on the website as well. And someone had told me recently that they weren't really aware of that, so that's something we can communicate out better. And so those links are just available for your information going forward. And on the next slide, related to that topic, is one of the initiatives going on in the district is that we're going to have a large initiative of website redesign. And so there are some listening sessions. I think there's one coming up next week. Yes, so Tuesday, a Google Meet listening session about web design. And there's also an online survey that can be completed, and ideas about how to make information more accessible are really helpful. So there are a lot of, we've heard about a lot of issues with the RPS website, that it can be really difficult to find information that people are looking for. So if you have some ideas and thoughts, you could certainly share them with me, or you could go to the listening session, do the online survey. Our communications department, Mamsu Knutson, is working on that. And just a couple other small things. The calendar for RPS has been released for next year. So the calendar is now accessible on the website as well. So on the next slide, I think just get a little snapshot of that with a start before Labor Day. So it's going to be an August start to the school year, and a link to that calendar. And a reminder as well on the next slide about the school board meetings, just that they are, of course, accessible, and there's a link to school board meetings and a snapshot of that calendar there for public input. This is going to be an active year, so participation, of course, in those school board meetings is really encouraged. And there might just be one last slide, Al, and we're close to the wrap up. Oh no, that's the first one, I guess. So that might put us in pretty good shape. So those are the updates, but I'd love to hear any comments, questions about RPS info.
Jennifer, hi, this is Andy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So if I'm curious to know what are the 20 strategic tasks, where can I find the headers or the lists, priorities?
Yes, excellent. Al might assist here with pulling up that letter. And I wonder also if, let's see if I can access the link to that letter and we could put that in the chat as well. So it's on the RPS website, and I might need to grab the link from another location and I'll put that in the chat for you. But that will list out the 20 different initiatives and the components that are going on. And some of those areas, if you have interest in them, there's going to be a period of time, I think, in these coming months where there will be community input and participation that will be sought. So if there's an area that is of particular interest to you or someone you know, then certainly there will be times coming up when we can have community members partner with some of the working groups that are just getting going.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the question. Great.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for being open to hearing some of those updates. There are lots of other things going on too, but that's just a general overview. And please always feel free to contact me, or if you know of families in the communities who just have some questions to that need to be answered or some connection that they need, definitely reach out to me and I can hopefully connect them to the right source of information for them.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Anybody? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I did have a question. I'm just wondering if there are ever opportunities for you guys' DEI department to connect and report on DEI issues or concerns or upcoming events or agendas pertaining to diversity groups within the school district versus, the general overview is definitely appreciated. But I do know that the school district does have DEI departments that have their own individual ideas, events, opportunities, and things like that. Are you guys ever maybe in the future willing to maybe include some of those specific goals of the DEI team or the cultural groups within the school district to see if there's anything that community organizations might be able to do to help or support some of those ideas that the school district's DEI departments are working with?
I love that. And yes, I think that's a fantastic idea. So this position that I'm in is part of our DEI department. And as you said, we also have Sarah Louise Henry, who is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion regarding curriculum and instruction. And we have Willie Tipton, who's looking at DEI and HR and our equity specialists and all of that work. And of course, we have Amelia Cordell looking at Native American Indian related work. So we could have, I guess, a couple of options where either I could get information from them and bring that to you, or they could participate or do some kind of rotation as well if you are looking for that type of thing. So yes,
well,
it could be.
Just wondering, I know that there are just, different departments, and a lot of the district employees are not really aware that Rochester Public Schools are connected with CMRC, the CMRC group. So they don't have, a lot of them don't have that knowledge, not that it's not available to them, but they're not aware that there are outside community organizations who are pushing to make sure that the community is supportive of the Rochester Public Schools, and that there is a committee of people within the community who are concerned about the needs and expectations of the students in RPS, those diverse groups of students and employees. And a lot of them, they just don't know about CMRC and that connection. So I was just wondering if that's being communicated with those other DEI departments, like you said, the equity specialists and curriculum and inclusion and those guys, maybe if they have any reports or if they have anything that's going on when you guys do report back to us versus just the general idea of the district as a whole, because there might be a DEI concern when it comes to students, maybe questions that maybe Kim, his cultural group that he works with might be able to answer from a community perspective that per se Dr. Pakel might not have addressed in his weekly newsletter, you know, that you report to us, and so on and so forth with many different other groups. So I'm just wondering if maybe you guys communicate with some of those DEI departments and just explain what that partnership or that connection is between RPS and CMRC, and let them know when those meetings will be in case there's any announcements or anything that they like to share with the community as far as wanting to, even if it's in reference to invite, I know you guys have family engagement opportunities for specific cultural groups, after schools activities and stuff like that, that maybe different community leaders can help to expand the knowledge of some of those events that you guys might have, you know, so on and so forth.
I love that. Yes, I think maybe what I could do is take your idea to my supervisor, Will Ruffin, and talk with him a little bit about, you know, some of what that might look like, and reconnect with you and or with Al and with your group, and see what see what ideas might come forth. I think that there would be some interest in some of the coordinators and maybe our equity specialists just being able to access you, you know, and maybe being able to either, you know, connect with this meeting, or if there's a different venue, or as you said, maybe sharing it with me and me sharing it with you. But I think that that would be great to open up those lines of communication and maybe a little bit more collaborative partnership. Am I kind of on track with that?
I would also
yes,
like
that sounds great. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I also add one more thing is that, as you all know about my Beam website, information that has been mentioned here, and I mean for other information, I'd love to be posted, so that will be one go-to place to find out about things that are going on and make them connected.
Yeah, okay. I love that too. So that's a good resource. Yes, and so I can I'll do that and connect back with you about some of what that might look like. But I like the idea of, you know, like more than the communication piece or touch point about general things, to really look specifically at some DEI related things and think about some partnership and some solutions based work that we can do.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part of the point I'm trying to make is we want to be more supportive of some of your, like I said, for example, if you're having a family engagement opportunity for a specific group, which I've known the district to do, and we want to help get a positive turnout. You know, we want to help you guys get a large number of parents from those communities, and how we're able to help you guys do that is if we have access to the information. If you send it to Al and he puts it on the beam, we all get it, and we can help individually spread that word on our own individual platforms to help you guys get a bigger outcome to whatever it is you're trying to do, because we're all doing great work, but the problem is we're not connected. We're so disconnected that the information is not reaching where it needs to go. So I think that the CMRC group having that connection to those DEI departments in some sense will help us to broaden the communication between the district and then the families of the different communities that we individually serve.
I love that. Thank you for bringing it forward to me.
Thank you, Jennifer. I know that you have another meeting to attend to, so yeah, thank you for coming. So
thank you, Al.
Yeah. So now in Olmsted County, SHIP, I only give you about 20 minutes. I know that your presentation could be actually longer. I heard your other on the website, the webinar. So up to you. How do you gonna, if you need more time, go ahead and be free to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes will be perfect. Muse and I looked at our slides from Tuesday and kind of abbreviated it a little bit, but we also just got the link for that recording. So we'll chat a little bit about SHIP, but then also we can give you the link for the full webinar recording so that everyone on this call, if they're interested, can watch that recording for a little bit more information. But if it's okay, Al, for me to share my screen and our slides?
Should be able to. I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let me. Oops, that's the wrong. Here. Okay. All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for the invitation to be with you today to talk about the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, otherwise known as the SHIP grant. So we recently announced that we will be accepting applications for our SHIP Community Partner Funding Awards. So that's what Muse and I will be talking about today. So this is our team. On the left there is our colleague Joanne Judge Dietz, myself, Anna Oldenburg, Pahuamua, also she goes by PH, and then Muse, who's with us today. So we will dive in here. So SHIP is something that is funded by the Minnesota Department of Health. It is dollars voted on and passed by our state legislature. And then the funding from the Minnesota Department of Health is then distributed to all of Minnesota's 87 counties and 10 tribal nations. So SHIP is all across the state of Minnesota, and we are here representing the Olmsted County portion of that. And SHIP is a grant that works for community-driven solutions to focus on and expand opportunities for well-being through active living, healthy eating, and commercial tobacco-free living. It's very much focused on opportunities that lead to equitable, sustainable change to promote that health and well-being of everyone across the state. And then we will talk about these different context areas. It works in 4 context areas, and it's able to be implemented in the community setting, childcare setting, healthcare setting, in schools, and in workplaces. So what is a Community Partner Funding Award? So it's small grant dollars that Olmsted County SHIP is able to provide to accepted applicants that focus on policy systems and environmental changes. And Muse will be talking about that in just a few slides. But it is truly focused on on exclusively sustainable projects. So meaning that we're not able to fund one-time events or programs such as a health fair or a celebration event, but rather something that is sustainable and long-term, meaning that others can benefit in the future from the project that would be implemented now. So this is just one example. We'll show a few more examples, but this is a nursing suite that the Rochester Downtown Alliance used their grant funding for. So this is a pop-up tent that can be put up at all of Rochester Downtown Alliance events so that there's a safe and private place for nursing people to go, whether it's to breastfeed or to pump. And this is an example of an environmental and a systems change. All right, so I'm going to hand it over now to Muse, who will talk to us all about PSE changes.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. Before I start, I want to just thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And also personally, I want to just express my gratitude and especially your team, because it reflects what we are looking for. You guys different because each of you represents certain community, and that's where we are looking for and appreciate. So I want to just kind of say that what you are doing is amazing, and I want to also just say something. It might not be out of topic, but we are especially encouraging you to take part in this funding, because what I believe is that I could be wrong. Anna will correct me, or you guys will correct me. You are coming from different sub organizations, and we are more interested in these sub community organizations. So I want to just mention that if you have received any communication from us, I want to urge you to just consider that and respond to, or at least consider. We are more interested the communities that you are representing. So let's come to my topic. So sorry, I am out of topic, but I'm kind of more. I like it you, so that's why I'm just kind of out of topic. So as you all know, BSC stands for Policy, Systems, and Environment. And the word GNG means here the process of modifying BSC in a sustainable way that promotes equitable health outcomes for everyone. BSC GNG in general is a new way of thinking that how we could effectively improve the health of our communities. And I think, as you know, for many years, health programs focused on individual behavior, just assuming that if you teach people what will make them healthy, they will find a way to do it. Unfortunately, being healthy is not just about individual choice. Where you live affects how you live. For example, you cannot make healthy decisions if you do not have healthy options available to you. And evidence shows that healthy behaviors that we are looking for improve only when they are supported by strong policy systems and environmental changes. So BSC changes are designed to promote healthy behaviors by making healthy choices easy and available for the community in long term. That's why SHIP uses BSC change to build the capacity of the communities to create health by increasing access, healthy eating, active living, and reducing commercial tobacco. That is the three areas that we focus a lot. Next slide, please. So policy change, whether it's formal or informal, policy strategies include developing, modifying, enforcing existing and new laws, ordinance, resolution, mandates, regulations, or rules that foster health. One thing that I want to emphasize here that whether we are developing a new policy or modifying an existing one, we must ask ourselves one question. Is this policy improving the health of our communities? If the answer is yes, we have to move forward. If not, I don't think we have to go forward. And some of the examples of healthy policy change can be, for example, worksite wellness policy, smoke-free policy in apartment building, breastfeeding-friendly policy. Next slide, please. System strategies are changes that impact all elements of an organization or institution or system itself, like school, transportation, parks, and recreations. So if the healthy systems change can be, for example, if we add SNAP or EPT to farmers market, that system is changed. If healthcare clinic screens for food insecurity and then refers to food shelf, that system is changed. If a school adds alternate to this suspicion program for favoring, that system is changed. Next slide, please. Environmental strategies involve the physical or material changes to the economy, social, or physical environment itself. Some of the examples can be if we create a community garden to increase food access, or if we provide furniture for a breastfeeding room at a work site or community location, or adding a bike rack or bike fixing station to encourage active transportation. Next slide, please. Okay, one of the major pillars of SHIP is health equity. This is very, very important. SHIP is focusing on advancing health equity by using BSE changes to enhance community power. So just let us remind, or I know you're experts, but I want to just remind you that the difference between equality and equity, since they are sometimes ambiguous terms. Equality is what everyone gets with the, for example, the same regardless of what is needed or right for everyone. And that cannot improve everyone's health because we have different needs. Equity, which is what we need, is what everyone gets what they need and understand the barriers, circumstances, and conditions. Please understand that policy systems and environmental changes are sometimes overlap. For example, if we develop a written plan for safe roads to school, that's policy change. And the plan itself, which leads to systems change, because it increases biking or walking, and that reduces bus system. And when we make signages for crosswalks, that's environmental change. So they are just kind of a trick, and they overlap. In summary, or just kind of to conclude that to improve the health of our communities, we need to address the systems and the structures of the communities in which we live, learn, and work by using equity lenses. And that can only be possible if we use BSE change methodology. And that's why SHIP requires projects based on BSE change, because BSE changes creates equity, I would say, sustainability, and improves the general population's health, not individual health. Now I want to hand it over to Anna to go over the next slides, which are context of areas of SHIP. Anna.
Awesome. Thanks, Muse. All right. So we mentioned there's 4 context areas of SHIP. So this again is all directed by the Minnesota Department of Health. So they're providing us with these guidelines and context areas and everything. So the 4 main focus areas that have been a part of SHIP are Minnesota Moves, which involves active living, Minnesota Eats, which is looking at food access, Minnesota Commercial Tobacco-Free Living, and we emphasize commercial tobacco-free living, as we know that tobacco is sacred within our Native American populations, and that's not the tobacco that we're talking about. We're talking about commercial tobacco, cigarettes, e-cigarettes, the like big tobacco there, and trying to keep prevent use of those products, and then also focusing on well-being within the school setting. So I'll quickly go through each of these. So Minnesota Eats, again, is looking at increasing access to healthy foods. Some examples of PSC projects in the past could be breastfeeding room at a workplace, a food or a pantry at a school, community gardening initiatives such as the Village. Hello, Kim. So this is another community garden at Back to Eden, which is the example of an environmental change. Within Minnesota Moves, again, we're looking at increasing access to that physical activity across a variety of settings. This could be comprehensive physical education in schools, which is this picture here that you see was the integration of some new physical activity curriculum and equipment, cultural liaisons in parks, bike racks, support with transportation planning are some examples there. Within the tobacco-free focus area, some of PSE examples that fit within this context area is alternative to suspension programs at school, as Muse just mentioned, is something that the SHIP program has worked on. Also, how do we integrate quit partner referral programming, and then another example is smoke-free policies at multi-unit housing places. So examples of some policies and environmental changes there. And then within the school setting, focusing on the strategy of well-being. This could look like a calming space in classrooms for students, mindfulness curriculums, for some environmental changes there you see in this example. Quickly, who is eligible for funding? So entities within Olmsted County, so community organizations such as all the organizations that you are representing here, businesses, work sites, schools, religious organizations are also eligible. We had that question at our webinar on Tuesday. Healthcare providers. Our largest priority is given to entities that serve underrepresented communities, where we see the greatest health disparities. And then also important to note that individuals are not eligible for funding. I'll quickly wrap up these last few slides. I know we're getting close. The main criteria for selection is that the project must be a PSE change. We're looking for sustainability. How can it benefit people in the long term? Looking at equity, and then also the project reach. Typically, the SHIP grant funds projects between $1,000 to $3,000. We are able to fund a project that is larger than $3,000. However, that will require additional approval from Minnesota Department of Health, and that's just part of the grant stipulations that MDH has set forth. So if we have a request that's over $3,000, it doesn't mean we can't fund it. It's just that we have to go through that second step of approval. There's a few examples of unallowable expenses here. There's a full list on our website, so I will skip past this slide here. And then the grant is a reimbursement grant process, meaning that once a project is approved, then there would be a contract between Olmsted County and the organization. The organization can then start their project once that contract is signed, purchase the equipment or materials set forth in that application. They would track their progress, take pictures, share about the work, and then submit that invoice for reimbursement. However, if the reimbursement grant process is prohibitive to an application, please reach out to us and let us know. We can work with our finance team to come up with a way for you to still apply for that grant without needing those funds up front. So please reach out to us about that if that is a concern. And then just to know that the application is open right now and it'll close on January 31st. At midnight, and then the announcement awards will be made in early March, and then those projects will be implemented from March until October. So that is SHIP in a very quick nutshell. So I will stop sharing here and welcome any questions you have if there's some time for them. But know that Muse and I and the rest of the SHIP team are here for you if you have any questions. We're happy to help you through the entire process. And much more information is on our website.
I have a question. This is Dee. Sorry, I don't have enough bandwidth for video right now, but so I have a question, Anna and Muse, about two quick things. One is, we fiscally sponsor a number of organizations, and so I'm curious if there's anything that we can do that would streamline the application process for those groups, right? Rather than each of them trying to come to us and saying, here are the things we need from you as our fiscal sponsor. Could we provide those in advance so that they're there for any of our fiscally sponsored groups that want to apply? It's something to consider. I don't need an answer right now, but if there is anything we can do to streamline, that would be helpful. And then, thinking about, really the purpose and the work of CMRC, and perhaps combining efforts to, look at, is there something that would be mutually beneficial in multiple places in community and for multiple population groups in community that we could apply for together, that it would, exceed that $3,000 threshold, but it would really amplify what they're able to accomplish. I'm just curious about that also.
I think that's a great question, Dee. That's a fantastic question. So, if there's along the way as CMRC and everybody around the table is kind of thinking about what might be an application project idea that you would want to put forth and doing a joint application, it sounds like, if I'm understanding your question correctly, instead of multiple individual applications, I think we could absolutely talk to you about that along the way and help you in development of that idea.
Great, thank you. That's what I was asking. Perfect.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that too. I think something like that, just thinking about our organization and how the Journey program offers multiple different services and programs. We have one program, but the objective of our one program touches on 3 or 4 of the different aiming topics, 2 or 3 of the different qualifying topics and programs for this grant. And so a combination of, the CMRC group, all of the organizations combining and working with CMRC, I think that would be a great idea if we all had, okay, what is something that your organization can focus on in reference to the grant? So for example, just to throw this out there, the focus on eating, when we talk about the importance of respecting yourself and how a form of respecting yourself is taking care of yourself and your health and well-being, where we can talk about, tobacco use, what we already do, talk about tobacco use and healthy eating. And then let's say Kim's organization is more so focused on active living through activities. But we all have a different focus with our organization, and each organization has a targeted focus pertaining to the grant. I can see that working for us, as a collaborative effort.
In other words, that we don't end up competing against each other, right? All our groups may touch similar things sometimes, so we can combine it more synergistically. So Kim or one group could focus on this area, like food, in terms of community garden, right? Another group could be like the Journey, could focus on different things, so that we don't end up having too many grant applications that may end up just competing against each other, right? So that would be a thought that we need to work on together, CMRC. I do have one more question. Really, is there a maximum number of grants that you would approve, or is there a maximum amount of money that you have in your pool of resources?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Typically, we have usually the funding to support about $50,000 for, and that's divided across all the different grants, or is that making sense? So
is that answer my question? Really is, so only you have a funding for total $50,000 to distribute. Is that what I'm hearing?
that's typically in a given year, we usually have around $50,000 that can be dispersed into the community. And so many of those are, you know, 2,000 for this applicant, and you know, maybe another one is a $5,000 one, and maybe another organization needs 1,000, or maybe, you know what I mean? So it's kind of divided up based on the applications that we receive, and what the needs of those organizations that are applying for, how that works, based on what their ask is. So this is a brand new thing for us this year. We're trying to be more purposeful and transparent and get new partners on board, which is why we're doing one big ask for applications and pushing out more information about the grant all at once, so that everybody can apply all together and be aware of it all at the same time. So it's a new process for us. So we're hopeful that it meets that goal, but also open to feedback.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's on our timetable. I have we can move on to the next topic we made. Okay, so we'll touch base if there are further questions to Ship. Okay, so Sydney, you on to talk about maybe the criminal justice system, that type of thing, you know. So you want to share screen, or you just want to talk, Sydney?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I don't have a slide deck prepared, so I'll just kind of share some information with you all. And if you'd like additional handouts or visuals, we can get those sent out per request. So yeah, thanks for the invite. My name is Sydney Fry. For those of you that don't know me, I currently serve in a couple different capacities within the community, kind of wear a couple different hats. One of which is I'm a program supervisor within Olmsted County, specifically within our community corrections department. And so I supervise, so kind of what I'm talking about this evening is our diversity, equity, and community outreach programs. That's kind of consists of three primary service areas that I'm going to share a little bit with you all about tonight. All of these efforts are really initiatives that are working toward improving equitable outcomes for individuals that have experience with the justice system, justice involved. And so I probably don't need to tell you this, but obviously there's a lot of things within our current criminal justice system that exacerbate kind of historical disparities for different populations and different people groups, right? And so one of which is along racial and ethnic lines. A lot of individuals that have been involved within the criminal justice system often fall within categories of historically marginalized populations as well. So if you think about individuals or communities, people groups that have experienced, for example, historical trauma, oftentimes we see a higher representation of those communities within the criminal justice system, right? And so part of what I've been tasked to do is try to help to kind of prop up a couple different initiatives. And I'm just going to share a couple of those with you all on tonight. So one of which is, and you all may be familiar with, but it's our community outreach specialist team, which is comprised of 4 licensed social workers that are currently embedded within our local law enforcement agencies. So both on the city side, within the Rochester Police Department, RPD, and then also on the county side within our sheriff's office, right? And so, as all of you are well aware, in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, there was a lot of, public attention, long overdue, paid to kind of current policing practices within our nation, right? And so there was a lot of outcry for reform, for change, the whole defund the police kind of narrative, that people kind of had, really, really kind of, had renewed interest around figuring out kind of how to do things differently. So um, I guess one of the outcomes of that was, there were some models that were proven to be effective throughout the country in different jurisdictions, in which one of the strategies that had been implemented was embedding social workers into police departments. Particularly when responding to crisis calls, so people that are experiencing like a mental health crisis, or maybe even a chemical health crisis, and or just having behaviors. And so a lot of times, when those responding to that individual were only law enforcement, they might not have had the training, they might not have the knowledge or the background to understand how to navigate those behaviors without having to resort to kind of more like public safety measures, so use of force and that kind of a thing. So again, this was kind of right in the aftermath of George Floyd, but the county board did approve kind of this expansion. There was already one embedded social worker here in town that had done some work kind of dating back to 2017, but at that point they decided, let's expand to a team of 4, and so that team now is doing that work of responding to what we call them PIC calls. They're like person in crisis calls, and so they have, and now we're coming up on 2 years that they've kind of been doing it, and really has really been a successful initiative, in the sense that we have seen the need. And again, I kind of feel like preaching to the choir, but we're all well aware of that, like mental health is becoming a more prevalent issue within our community, and how do we respond to individuals that are struggling in a variety of different capacities. Obviously, just yesterday we got news of a famous figure within the African American community who was pretty much the same age as I am, committed suicide. So what the team does is respond to in-person crisis call. So that person could be exhibiting just struggle with their mental health, like I referenced earlier. It could be related to suicidal ideation, self-harm behavior. A lot of times it's even kind of domestic incidents we sometimes get called out to as well, in which individuals are having issues between maybe intimate partners or even children struggling with their caregiver, their parent, guardian, etc., and so forth and so on. And so what the team does is kind of respond and try to help to provide relevant information to help navigate, the service system. A lot of times folks don't know who to call for help, and so they call 911. And so now, with the social workers involved, they're able to help navigate a lot of times and reduce the likelihood that those individuals end up in one of 2 places where, a lot of times we send folks when they're in crisis, is either to jail or we send them to the emergency department. And both of those systems have been overwhelmed. And so really I think the work that our team has done has really helped to divert some folks. If we look at our metrics, we can see that's actually played itself out. The number or the percentage of individuals that actually have an interaction with law enforcement that our team interacts with, I think 1% of those actually end up having to go to jail. Like, so 99% of those that we have contact with actually don't end up being incarcerated or arrested. So, so that's one initiative that again is an effort on community corrections to really address some of those inequities that we see as it relates to how do we treat matters of mental health without criminalizing those matters, and that's really kind of what we're trying to do. So I'm going to just shift gears here real quick and share about another initiative, and that's also our pretrial service team. So this team works with individuals, and I'm guessing some of you have heard a lot about kind of nationwide this discussion around bail reform. And so, I think even the state of Illinois, kind of, there's been a lot of noise around as of January 1st, 2023, they're not going to have cash bail anymore. And a lot of people are kind of like, oh, well, what does that mean? Does that mean we're just releasing folks from custody? We're not holding folks. We're not having bail. Our criminals just gonna kind of be able to inundate the streets and create chaos. And so there's a lot of fear that people have around that. But locally, I just want to kind of give a little context when we're talking about pretrial services. This is offering services to individuals prior to their conviction. So of any crime. So these folks have not been convicted of any crime. And so they're put on pretrial services. And what that enables them to do is have an increased probability of being released. One of the things that we do know is that if we determine, or if we make the decision to determine whether a person gets released or not based upon their ability to pay, that creates additional disparate outcomes for historically marginalized ethnic populations that tend to be on the lower end of the social economic status, right? And so if you're going to tell me that if I make a certain amount of money and I can make the payment to pay for bail, even though I committed the same crime as somebody else, and the only reason I'm getting out is because I have money, it contributes to this this cycle, right, of disparate outcomes and perpetuating kind of some of the inequities that we see in different communities. So pretrial services, kind of our team, it's a team of four workers as well, agents within the Community Corrections Department. They'll connect with these individuals. They help to remind them of when their court date's coming up. If they want to work on issues that they've got going on, they can kind of get a head start on doing that and help position themselves, for when they do have to go back to court to be in maybe a better space and making progress on some identified goals that they might have. So I think the facts are pretty clear too, in case folks are curious. In jurisdictions where common sense cash bail reform has been implemented, what they've seen is that there's no more likelihood for those folks to be rearrested after bail reform was passed than before. So that's really kind of what the statistics are showing. So releasing people more has not led to higher crime rates, contrary to popular opinion. So so that's a little bit of the work that we're doing with the pretrial service team to address some of those issues around your liberty being contingent upon one's ability to pay. So the last area I want to talk with you guys about this evening, and like I said, I can share out some one pagers for these different program initiatives, if that would be helpful to reference. But the last area is kind of our newer initiative. It's kind of the newest initiative that we do have. That we're kind of helping to launch, and that's our IDEA team, which is a specialized caseload. So this is within our probation department. So it's a specialized caseload. So it's a team of 4 probation officers that have a specialized caseload that really seeks to address specific responsivity factors for different marginalized populations. So the particular population that we actually are starting out with is African American males between the age of 18 and 25. So African American males between the age of 18 to 25. We know that part of the reason that prompted us to start with that population is because that nationally, if you look at the statistics, Black males make up about 14% of the U.S. male population. But then if you look at the percentage of Black African American males within the prison population, it's 2 or 3 times that amount, right? So we're talking about 35% of the prison population being comprised of African American males, which is again obviously not right proportionate to the U.S. population. So knowing that there's some issues that for a variety of issues or for a variety of reasons, African males are incarcerated at disproportionately higher rates than any other ethnic population, right? And so the IDEA team really is intentional because we have identified probation officers that many of the team has lived experience, and there's representation on the team of that same population. So there's the POs that are serving that group. A good percentage of them would also identify as an African American male. And so part of what we've done with that group is we've also implemented part of the work. This is a change in practice for probation, generally speaking, but one of the things that we've known is that really when we talk about changing criminal behavior, we talk about that being a long process involving the use of cognitive skills, right? And so helping, that's why there's been classes or groups offered such as Thinking for a Change or groups called Decision Making Points. And it really is based upon cognitive behavioral therapy, that framework and how our thinking influences our feelings and behaviors and so forth and so on. And so utilizing that model, but doing it in a culturally responsive way has kind of been the change for this particular population. So we've actually identified a curriculum that's specific to that population. And we've known that, over time, historically, this particular population's engagement in group programming and skill building has been somewhat challenged based upon the fact that a lot of times the curriculum or how it's presented to them is kind of maybe foreign and it doesn't kind of reflect their own cultural or lived experience. And so we were really intentional about seeking out a curriculum that kind of would speak to their experiences and be more relatable. We're hoping to wrap some other components around that program, such as mentorship and also integrating mental health services as well, because a lot of times we have made referrals to external community-based providers for like therapy or mental health services. But again, that kind of creates a little bit of a disconnect to expect, especially at that age too. We're talking about not just the cultural, but also the age of development, knowing that really kind of brain development is still kind of more similar to an adolescent than it is an adult. So that's being another kind of strategic thing that we're trying to do. And we're basing it off, Hennepin County actually has a similar model. And it's a transitional aged youth model where they've basically treated their 18 to 24-year-old adult probationers as juveniles, and they still offer them the same level of service that you would traditionally offer to somebody that is more in that is more than as a minor than as an adult. So so that's kind of in a nutshell, just kind of, I know short on time, but that's kind of Cliff Notes, a brief description of some of the initiatives that we have kind of currently working on within our community corrections department to help address issues of equity. So would be happy in the next minute or two to field any questions. I did see a couple hands as I was talking, so I don't know who raised their hand first, but I could definitely try to respond.
Shauna first, maybe. Shauna?
Oh, my hand wasn't first. I think Kim was. You want to go?
Kim was? Okay, Kim. Yeah.
It was D. I saw D hands up first, but he put it hand
I
down.
just wanted,
Whatever.
I just wanted to quickly say, we definitely want to touch base with you, Sydney, about having links to your one sheets on our resource pages. So I'll close that loop with you. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, yeah, as you know, that a lot of the Cambodian are being deported to Cambodia, and during that, in the early 80s, they had, committed crime, but they never had the pretrial. They were, was forced to accept their plea, and so that way they go into be convicted, and then it was a fast track for them to get out of prison, but then didn't realize that this will be hold on them for deportation. And then about the 1996 immigration reform that was passed by Bill Clinton. During that time, that was the effort of deporting a lot of the people that committed crime, but they never get a pretrial, and they didn't understand these things, and a lot of them accept the plea because they were saying, yeah, if you accept the plea, you're gonna get lower prison time, and you'll be able to get out and spend rebuild your future. And they got out, had a family, had kid, and they're being separated. And so this has been a fight that the Minnesota Aid that there's other people, One Love that's from Philly and other organization, but Minnesota Aid has been trying to fight that and saying these people committed crime, they served their time, and this is a double whammy for them, and then they be sent life in prison in another country where they don't even know. And so we work with the county law and try to, put some effort to have Olstrom to kind of, how do he can help with that. But it seems like it's a tough battle right now. And I hope that, your team or other team can advocate toward that and can bring some of the deportee back, because if they committed the crime before that law was passed, they should have the right to stay here and not be deported.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you raising that up. I definitely would like to connect offline if you have more information, or we could connect around kind of how to help to champion that. I know there's a lot of, that's a great reference, a lot of historical kind of issues around different people groups that have kind of been on the wrong end of kind of the justice system. And then there's been some reform, but they're still paying the consequences, even though the law may have changed. Yeah, definitely we can connect.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Fry. I just wanted to ask, so I have a couple of questions. What is the referral process? Well, what's the contact information? How do we find contact information and information on the referral process, not only for the program you're talking about now for the 18 through 24 young men who are going through that bail process, but also the contact information and referral process for people, for the social workers through the county that are working with law enforcement. So that information. And lastly, in what ways can community organizations, like for Journey, we work with young people who are not 18, so 18 and under, who might be working with juvenile probation officers who might want to partner with other community organizations for an alternative to like alternative to punishment or probation, alternative to probation, youth life skill programs and skill building. How do we partner with you guys' juvenile probation officers as far as establishing those connections and relationships for those young people that your department might work with that are under 18? So those are the questions I have.
Yeah, so oh, thanks for that. So as far as the contact information, I can definitely I'll share that information out too with those one-page documents. It should have most of that information on there, I think. And then I guess to the other question you raised about with youth that are under 18. Yeah, there's a couple of different opportunities. I know, and then COVID has kind of changed things a little bit, but there was the diversion program kind of within juvenile corrections, which is kind of basically looking at alternatives to kind of traditional probation. And they do look a lot of times to how do they get those, I say kiddos, but connected to different community-based organizations where if they, because there's sometimes we kind of are not doing like what we used to do with like community service. It looks a little different than it used to, but basically those service hours or hours that they need, if there's opportunities to get them plugged into different organizations, they can get like credit for their volunteering or participating in different programs. Especially, I know there's been a lot of issues right now because there's just not as many youth serving programs in the community. It seems like a lot of them have kind of gone away or are not kind of up and running. So we are actually trying to identify who is in the community providing services and how do we connect with those individuals. So guess that would be the short answer to that.
And I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to add that we do offer a 20-hour life skills training program for minority students, and not just minority students, all students are welcome, but we do take referrals from for youth who are involved with juvenile probation. And I wanted to ask you if this program that you guys offer, I know you said that it's ran by mostly African American people who have that lived experience. But I was wondering if this opportunity is available to other young men that are 18 through 24, 25. Are they able to be referred to that program as well if they are not African American?
Yeah, so there is kind of a dual process with that. So yes, that transitional age range, the 18 to 24, 25-year-olds, there is like some programming equivalent to what we're doing with the African American male population. There are still some programming that we offer for that population at the same age. It just looks maybe a little different. But there's the hope too is that, even sometimes folks that are not on probation yet, if there's some opportunity for them and willingness, it would be kind of on a voluntary basis, but to participate in some of the group programming, to with the curriculum that we've got, it can address a lot of different issues, not just like criminal behavior. I mean, what's it like to be a young dad? What's it like to, establish good credit, all these kind of other life skills types things too. So, yeah, I guess just as far as getting a hold of us, if there's individuals that you think would benefit, and yes, there's a couple of different options there too for not just the just that specific population.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Al, we can't hear you.
Sorry?
Al, unmute. Al is on mute.
Yep, Al, you're muted.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Sydney. So moving right along, okay, I was saying that thank you, Sydney, for presenting to us, and further sharing would be welcome, and we would get back to you, I'm sure. So the agenda I have, Andy. So the next set of topics really to kind of introduce the our CMRC communities. We thought that would be a good idea to share out some of the things that our community members work on. So so Andy, you're up to talk a bit about your group, which is the Indian culture, and then your Rochester, and then the infusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of you know about both organizations, so I'll be brief and feel free to um, interject if you have questions or further clarification. So I've been very passionate about our community, and having grown up in India, I could truly believe there are a few things that are common for all of us. One is the food, the other one is the music. So that connects no matter which part of the world you're from, you can very quickly relate to each other. So that's kind of the theme both my organizations are built on. I'll talk briefly about the Rochester Vidyalaya. It was founded in 2010 uh, as I was looking for activities for my children who were young at that age. Right now, they are both in college, or my daughter is going to go to college next year. So, as I was exploring, the options were few and far between, and I thought, what an opportunity for us to share our culture that I grew up with my family and children, and also benefit the community. So that's how this organization was formed. At its heart, what we do is facilitate learning the art form. So we have classes pre-COVID. Again, everything changed after COVID, but pre-COVID, I had about 100 children taking various art forms, either the drumming lessons, the Indian keyboard called harmonium, the Indian vocal, Indian string instrument called veena, dance forms like called Bharatanatyam. So at 5 or 6 different schools, I invited faculty, trained professionals, but they are amateurs in the sense that this is not their main job. But they would come and take lessons here in town, and I had to coordinate all the activities between getting the teachers here, getting the kids to the classes, and shuttling them sometimes to the cities. Some Sundays they wouldn't want to come, so then I'll take the kids there and so on. So that was one aspect of the culture. The second one is not only learning but also performing. So we had several performances by artists from India, from USA, to share their talent, what they learned here in the community, and it also served as a forum for kids, not only in Rochester but in USA, like from Chicago, Minneapolis, Madison. They're all learning in their own communities, and we wanted to provide a safe and friendly environment so they can come and perform and start feeling a little more confident about what they learn and be proud of their achievement. So we had several performances in the community. We also took part in several events like the Festival of Lights, Festival of Colors. If you read Post Bulletin or watched the news channel in the last 10 years, you probably would have come across these events showcased. We also took part in the Thursdays on First, where our students will go on stage and perform in the afternoon stage, or in the main stage, or in the side stage. So all of this are are some of our accomplishments. And currently, post COVID, with COVID, we had to improvise, and a lot of things have changed. We explored offering classes in Zoom. Some of it is happening, some of it didn't work out. For example, the percussion lessons are very hard, even a half microsecond difference between what the teacher is saying and what he or she is playing versus what the kids are seeing. It makes a huge difference. That doesn't sound the same, it doesn't feel the same, they're offbeat. We said that won't work. But the dance form, once we had some learned, I think for rehearsal it's working well. So that's in a nutshell. So right now we have Diversity Council be the physical agent for Rochester Vidyalaya. We continue to watch how things are evolving. We have a grant that was funded, so now we want to actually take our kids and perform in the not only Rochester, which we have, but also take it to the Southeast Minnesota region. to the schools like in Casson and Byron and Winona and whatnot. So that is in the work. Again, last year we got it, but then because of COVID and Omicron, I said, no, I want all of us to be safe. So we kind of shelved it. So we will reattempt that this spring next year. So that's about Rochester Vidyalaya, what I do, what we do in that. Any questions before I switch gear and talk about my other entity? Okay. Again, feel free to jump in. The other one, I don't know how many of you know me that well, but I truly have a background in food science. I studied food for most of my life. I have a PhD in food science. I've worked in the food industry for several years, but then like most of us here in town, ended up joining Mayo Clinic, and I've been at Mayo Clinic for about 17 years now. And along the way, I felt a little bit of guilt that I have still have all these skills and knowledge and ability, but I'm getting away from what I learned in school and college and as a profession. So I found a couple of other people as crazy as me, and we started this company called Infusion, which is focused on some of the things we talked about. Minnesota Eats, exactly that's what we do. So it's a for-profit organization. It's run as a business. It's registered. We have several licenses. One as a manufacturing organization. Our facilities in Pine Island, Minnesota, and we also, if you are ever at the farmers market, you would have seen us in the last 5 years every Saturday making crepes and whatnot. So that's the other part. And we were impacted by COVID, and we had to pivot. And then we started meal delivery. And we also have a social construct in what we do. We participate in a lot of fundraising activities. We actually support local events. But when COVID happened, we felt bad that people are kind of stuck without a job, and they can't get out of the house. So we actually, on a spur of a moment, we created a GoFundMe campaign with the goal of serving 1,000 people. 1,000 people will get cooked meals. They don't have to prep anything. We're not dropping lentils or rice, but we actually were dropping cooked meals. And within 2 days, we got like about $1,500. I was like, oh my gosh! And these are people from all over the country who just started sending me. We said, oh, stop! We need to know actually deliver. So we did deliver close to 2,000 pounds of cooked meals. Essentially, people who were stuck because of COVID, they couldn't go out. We would deliver like 15 meals to them. So that actually helped us to finish our delivery model. So now we have a refrigerated line that we deliver to people who order online, and then we deliver once a week and so on. So it was a kind of like our passion to help the community, be part of the community, and in the process serve Minnesota with healthy food. I partnered with Kim last year to take some of his produce and then use it in our cooking. So we get to pay the farmers. But it's a little bit difficult in Rochester to grow mangoes, if you know what I mean. And mango smoothie is our most popular. So we had to find creative ways to incorporate what's grown here. We use a lot of potatoes and onions. So I'll pause there. We have been running this company for the last 5 years, and this summer we actually ended up buying a food truck, and we got super busy with that. So we are just like taking a breather now and getting ready for 2023. I have two other partners in my business. Both are also working professionals. One is at Mankato State University. My other partner is in Winona State. Winona State. Questions, thoughts, comments, and I always look for ways that we can support our community. D knows this, Al knows this, Kim knows that. So anything I
Very
can do to
true.
help, anything I can do to help, please reach out. I'll be more than happy, as long as it's vegetarian. That's our specialty. I don't cook meat. So
Okay, we're sort of short on time, so I'm sure that as we if there are further questions, we can connect with our other CMRC communities. So I'll talk a little bit. The next one is I'll talk a little bit about my initiative, which is the intercultural connection and exchange. And the whole idea really is the fact that maybe I could show this slide here. The whole idea is that within our community, the immigrant population, I have a feeling that we are not as connected from in terms of intercultural sharing each other's culture with each group. which CMRC is in fact, has a lot of connectivity potential for my project. Actually, that's why I'm really participating in CMRC, because the effort about wanted to introduce in the immigrant cultures to each other. In fact, more than immigrant, actually, and minority cultures to each other. So that is my Rochester intercultural cultural and economic exchange, the two elements of it. Cultural meaning understanding each other's heritage, their ethnicity, the history, and all that. That's a cultural part. And then it's also economic part in my concept here. We really say that our immigrant populations and other minority populations, they have some investment potential, the capital investment, and also skill investment that can be called to contribute to our area projects. And in particular, and Diversity Council has this concept of cultural center that being built out. And in my community, which is the Asian and Chinese community, and I'm aware there's a lot of potential investors from the Twin Cities and maybe international as well, to lend some kind of capital investment into this kind of projects. So really, that is my concept here, and it's still kind of in the early phase here, to be honest. The idea is that as we work on this, we will understand each other's culture better, and also to rally and collect up the collective potentials, economic and skill, to contribute to Rochester and our communities' initiatives. That is really the concept here. Okay, so I don't know if there's any, light of the time limitation here. I think I'll stop at that. Okay, and so we're at the, unless there's some question.
Kim,
now,
did
yeah.
Kim, I wonder if Kim Sin wants to talk a bit.
Okay, yeah, Kim.
Well, I just want to mention about the opportunity of the global market that has been, started this winter, kind of give a culture, experience of food, selling from jewelry, a little retail, any kind of merchandise. We open it to the public. There's no cost. We've been trying to get more vendor since November and December. It was hard for food vendor because they only get 2 times, and the cost of getting a food permit was, considered expensive. And our first event, we didn't have a good turnout. Our second event in December, we had a little bit more people, and we're hoping to really, draw more of the community. And this is, I know the community want more of cultural stuff, but when we hosted, we didn't get a lot of people coming to support. I don't know if it's marketing or we're not, advertising in the right location, but we've been struggling, and our vendor are struggling too, especially our food vendor, because they were having to prepare these food expecting, people to come, and then they didn't, and then end up, they're losing money, and that's kind of, giving them hopeless, and some are giving up, and but I mentioned that we're going to continue and we're going to be successful. It's just keep on going at it, and we're going to try to do more advertising for January event. So January, February, March, it's going to be 2 times. And the other thing is that we don't have culture, entertainment, and we're hoping to, and we're on a, there's no budget for us or anything. So this was just, and we're not charging any our vendor, because we really want to really push them to really try to sell their cultural, from their culture, from food to retail or anything. So, well, and I post information on our Facebook. Diversity have done that, Asian Media, and so we're just not knowing where we're kind of not getting the audience. But if you know anybody who's want to be a vendor, tell them to reach out, and it's free. It doesn't cost them anything. Thank you. Yeah, Kathy?
Yeah, I had a specific question. I was able to attend in December. So I hear what you're saying, foot traffic and just getting people in there. And I had a couple of questions, and I think we were able to have a Circle of Healing event there in December, which was an organization from the Twin Cities that wanted to host a vaccine event in Rochester. So since we're all on the call here, I wanted to mention to all the organizations that maybe other events or entertainment, as Kim just suggested, would be, it's a big enough building to allow for that, and it might help people come to buy the food, or there was food vendors, and then there was someone selling, like, you know, cookies and salsas and that type thing. So that events and entertainment happening at the same time might be of help to get some more foot traffic in. And then the other question I had was kind of specific, because I did browse around and I looked at the farmers market Facebook page, because, you know, they have their own version of a winter market in the morning. And this particular winter market or global market wasn't mentioned on their Facebook. And I wondered if they're willing to do that as another way to get the word out, because that way anybody who looks at their page would see that there's also the global market. And I don't know if you had asked them that and they said no, or if it just maybe was another something we could try going into January to see if that would help get some more foot traffic in there.
Yep, we can ask them to see if they, would like to post. I know when we started, we were gonna do it early, like 10, and then somebody from there brought some kind of concern, so we move it to 1 o'clock because we didn't want to have any conflict or any competition. But we were mostly, on a different kind of focus. It was not to sell any produce, but it was to sell more of, cultural stuff, and it was kind of supporting the BIPOC with, who has idea of entrepreneur but didn't have that kind of understanding or the overcost. So, lucky we have Diversity Council kind of remove that barrier from the insurance, from, getting a commercial kitchen and all these things with, ensuring the place as well. Without Diversity Council, we wouldn't be able to do this. And so there's a lot of kind of over barrier for a lot of organization, and it's to remove that and just let them focus on enjoying what they enjoy, is cooking and selling. And
yeah.
Well, Kim, I just wanted to bring up on my Beam calendar, right? This particular event is lined up with the other, kind of similar events, right?
Yep.
So that is the part of our issue. Maybe with CMRC long-term wise should try working on is how do we line up some similar activities so that they can be more, they don't overlap each other. That's maybe one thing. Another one is, I think, too, is that we get a better venue, for this kind of activity, namely the cultural center that Dee has been driving, would be a really good place to have the host this kind of events, right?
It's going to be hard to not to overlap other event because, Rochester has a lot of activity, and that's what I find. And, there's a group that we're trying to work on, trying to, put one calendar for the city that got, dropped. The visitor bearer is supposed to be in charge of that, and they kind of changed director, and that kind of fall apart. There was supposed to be a process in place for that, but it seems like, there's not,
Yeah.
no, it seems like not, who is actually going to be in charge should be the visitor bureau taking that on and kind of have a calendar list. Kind of, they did call a meeting, but then when they changed the director, that kind of fall apart, and here we are back to the same. It's kind of
hard.
I guess I'm offering perhaps bringing the CMRC collective energy together, that we can, make the voice amplify these needs to address this with a group there that seems to have a committee a calendar there. So that is what I'm looking at, right? That is the purpose of CMRC, I think, in some way. So work with CMRC and then amplify the needs together. Maybe we can bring to bear the collective strength.
Yep. Yeah, we can work on that.
So Kathy's got her hand raised. Is
You know, I still have one more thing to say because
Kathy, go ahead.
I was really intrigued by this effort and trying to think of ways to support the effort. And so I did reach out to some businesses in that area. And the magic word I want to convey is I heard about January as being a very busy time in that area near Graham Arena because it's hockey tournament time. And I appreciate what you just said, Al. Is there a way to, let people know that this opportunity to get a lunch is available, that because you're there all afternoon versus that winter market, which is there, just they leave at noon. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, our CMRC teams and Diversity Council, we've done so much with the public school system. I don't know if there's a network there to just let people know that this option is there to grab some food while you're there. And if we can help make sure that this gets on the Facebook page for the farmers market, I think that would be another good thing to collectively approach, maybe to make sure they understand that that's very important that this gets put out there because, many people are going to look at that to find those winter markets in the morning. So those were my two contributions from what I observed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for the feedback. And the more help we get, spreading the information, that would be great. So that way we can reach more footprint coming to the place. And I know that other are trying to, promote it and reach out to other community members. But, this is our first year, seeing what we can do better, and it's a learning curve. So, I mean, each year will be better, but it's just that the momentum of our food vendor, especially, taking the risk of, making food and then it's going to waste. That's just, but the retail, they can, still reuse that item, but people making food, they can't recover their costs.
Okay. Anybody else wanted to say a few words before we call it a night? Yeah, looks
Thank
like.
you, Al.
Okay.
Great meeting. Thank you, everyone,
We want
for
to just say
contributions.
thank you so much.
I just wanted to say to everyone, happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holiday, and
thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to Dee for all of your hard working in making the global market happen. So she's been behind.
Thank you, Kim. It's a labor of love, and we love it. So, thank you. Good to see everyone.
Thank you, Olmsted County, to present to us.
And
okay.
Thank you. Thank
Happy
you,
holidays.
Everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.